after being swung over the fence and during brunch, right here, right now, this is Our Voices. Our hottest internet talk show where we get vocal. When I mean we, us ladies. Now today's topic is something that's very important because it's just around the corner, and that is the midterms election in November. Now, of course, the midterms elections usually are not the most popular one. Of course, everyone's interested in the most sexiest election, which is the presidential election. However, this midterm election is important to the Democratic Party especially because this is the determining factor whether they get the Senate. The media has already coined this year as the year of the veto. Ladies, can we offer any suggestions to ensure the Democrats can keep the Senate, or can we just say bye-bye birdie?
Well, at the moment, I'm really not sure how the Democrats are going to be keeping their, Senate hold, because in a bunch of swing states, particularly North Carolina and Arkansas, there's an 8 to 10% Democratic population that said they won't vote for any Democratic candidate that supported the Affordable Health Care Act. And also with the dissatisfaction with Obama's presidency, it's really making a lot of Democrats, feel unmotivated to vote. And I feel like the Republicans are super excited about maybe getting that Senate, that they are going to go out and vote. And I have a sincere belief that the Senate is just going to go to the Republicans because of all this dissatisfaction.
Okay, that's so interesting that you would say that, because I know that having someone who's on the Republican panel,
He's so happy.
itching to get at it. I mean, I can feel it. So, Linda, being at any political events, particularly revolving around the Republican Party, have you been hearing anything that perhaps we're not privileged to?
Well, I mean, for the midterm elections, the Republicans are very excited about this because there's a great chance that we'll take the Senate. And I really believe that that's going to happen. I mean, we already have the House of Representatives. We're going to take the Senate. And
well, it's only 6 seats, right?
Yes, all we have to get are 6 seats.
But why do you think that it's so prominent that the Senate's going to go to
I think that everyone's ready for change. Democrats have dominated for so long. It's time to go back to the Republicans.
See what they can do.
So it's just because it's about that time.
I think it's time.
Girlfriend, listen to this. From an international perspective, we don't like to hear that. I mean, we want one party to hold the Senate and another party hold the Republic, the blah, blah, blah. The House. We want one party to hold the House and the other party holding the Senate. I mean, if you cannot have everything, it's almost like giving a child too much food to eat. You need that diversity. Seriously, you need that diversity. And we internationally want to look at that to see how these two people now will kind of work together and make America better. When you have a diverse political spectrum, the country gets better. But if one person dominates, it is so bad. It's not good for America. It's not good for the international atmosphere. We need the Democrat to hold on to the Senate.
I have to agree with Linda. I think change is going to be great. But what kind of change is going to happen?
Well, change is inevitable. That's going to happen regardless. The question is, what can we expect from this change? What do you think is going to happen from this, Irene, if the Senate is taken over by the Republicans?
I think the Republicans are straightforward. What they say is what they move. They move forward.
I'm sorry, who am I talking to? I didn't know you're a Republican.
I'm undecided.
Oh, undecided.
I'm just like you.
I'm not undecided.
That makes me happy.
Oh my God.
That makes a lot of other Republicans happy.
I'm married to a Republican.
Oh, really?
So I've always been,
this and that.
I want to find out what's going to happen when the Republicans do take the Senate. And then President Obama, our Democratic president, is going to totally be handcuffed, and he's going to have to play nicey nice with the Republicans.
I'm not really sure. I'm not really concerned about that. I mean, he's pretty much done for the rest of his election. I mean his term here. It's pretty much over with. I think they're more concerned about who's going to be taking over his seat than in 2016.
And then have that 4 years of the Senate House.
Precisely. So, I mean, right now, the strongest candidate we hear is Hillary that's coming up. So I think she's the one a little bit more concerned than he is. I think Barack is more concerned about about making sure that things still continue to go smooth, and he's
Yes.
not really looking as much about whether or not the Democrats are going to take over the Senate. That's my
But
opinion.
whoever becomes president, they have, like, if it's gonna be a Democratic president, they're gonna have to deal with
Absolutely.
Republicans. So I wanna see what he's gonna end up doing if that does happen.
Well, I feel like there won't be much movement if if the Republicans both have the House and the Senate, because as the media has said, it would be, 2 years of just vetoing stuff, and the Senate would have to get 2/3 of a vote to actually pass any laws. So there's this, it would be this giant, power struggle between the presidency and then the two executive other branches.
And nothing will move forward. And nothing will move forward when we have such an atmosphere.
Move forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nothing will move forward because it's going to be the president on one end and the Senate and the House on another end, coming together.
Yeah.
So.
Well, first of all, we're speaking in terms as if the Senate has already been taken over by the
Oh, yeah, but
Republicans.
this is just,
Merge.
Yes, but here's the thing, and the reason why we're coming to this conclusion is because, yes, typically it's known that a lot of independents and our younger voters do not come to the midterm elections. But what if there was some sort of miracle, right? And they turned up,
You're right, you never know.
then this conversation would be vetoed.
they would have to be really excited. That's why the Democrats have to really excite their
I'm not
voting
worried. As a
population.
Republican, I'm not worried.
And you shouldn't be, because the Republicans are excited about this election, whereas Democrats are just dissatisfied because of, Obama's, slowly, approval ratings just going down, and the Affordable Health Care Act being, mixed bag. So,
Okay, so then here's the question then. If and should, this is just a possibility, I remember there was a time when Senator Barack was running for presidency, and everyone was like, oh, that's not gonna happen. And somehow the heavens opened up and he became president for 2 terms. 2 terms. So I think that it is possible that the Democrats could keep the Senate. But in the event that they do not, why would the Republicans, if they take it over, make the situation so much better? I mean, be quite honest with you.
Okay, basically, all Democrats want to do is take care of every single thing, let's take care of these people, let's take care of these people. Republicans want to get things done. We don't think
what kind of things?
okay. No. Okay, let's go on to welfare, immigration, we're giving all of our rights, all these things to these people that are just taking advantage, okay?
Were you around when Bush was president?
Ben, dude.
I'm talking about this president, what he's doing, and
Because you said Republicans get things done, and I remember when the second Bush was in power,
Well,
I didn't see much being done. I saw the banking system going down, and then the Democrats had to come and build
We need an independent in the House.
Yeah, we do.
Straight up. Then we can avoid all of this BS and just move forward with the country. And you know why? Because Democrats don't pick sides. I'm sorry, not Democrats. Independents don't pick sides. To be honest with you, they make sure that they're diplomatic on both ends of the spectrum.
yes.
And so although we're arguing from the Republican point of view and the Democrat point of view, or the question mark point of view.
I'm independent, and so I'm just seeing what I feel is right. And I do feel that the Republicans right now are on, I think that we do need change. I think it would be great if a Republican came up in Senate.
yes.
But what kind,
See, here's the thing. I think we keep saying Republicans. Why don't we pick an individual? Because I don't think just because you're associated with a party that means that that's what's going to make the Senate better or the House better. I think it's the individual that makes it better, And so we're speaking from that perspective way too much.
But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about if the Republicans are to take the party, take the Senate, then we're going to have both the House Representatives and the Senate.
Yes, that is absolutely correct, but that does not mean that there's going to be smooth sailing for the duration of the next.
I didn't say it would be.
Well, again,
I'm just
because you
saying it's about time that the Republicans are getting, their feet staying where they need to be.
But she's correct. But she's correct because there's two factions of the Republican Party right now that as it is, like the growing Tea Party, even though they're saying that it's lessening over the years, it's still a prominent factor within the House and maybe within the Senate if the Republicans take over the Senate. So you have the Tea Party and you have the relatively modern conservative Republicans.
I really don't care if the Republicans sit in the Senate or the Democrats in the Senate or the independents. independence. Can we just all get along, okay? As the old cliche says, can we just work together and make this happen? I don't have any allegiance to any particular party. What I have allegiance to is to this country.
Ooh,
That's it.
I like that.
Today's guest that's joining us here on Our Voices is a very special woman. We've been anticipating her arrival for some time now. She's a Democratic leader, and she has an awesome taste when it comes to cosmetics and dressing. Let's welcome Nancy Gray.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. So I have to tell you, Nancy, you have been the hype all over the studio today. We've been anticipating your arrival. Yes.
Tell me.
Now, well, we don't talk and tell too much on camera, but what we will do is ask you just a little bit about yourself, because to be quite honest with you, we have our opinions about what we've heard about you, but we would like to know coming from the horse's mouth. So please share us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I guess I can start out as to why I became involved in politics to begin with. I came from a family that immigrated from Budapest, Hungary, originally. My grandparents were Hungarian Jews, and my grandfather was very politically aware. And he saw the uprising of the Nazi Party and tried to communicate the dangers to his family. And it was just a sister of his and him and his wife, and my grandmother was pregnant with my mom at the time, and my uncle that immigrated to this country that came in through Ellis Island. But the rest of my grandfather's family perished in concentration camps. And so he always communicated to the family how vital it is to be involved in your government and to have your voice be heard. And so that's kind of how I grew up. And as I grew and was aware of various things going on in our nation, I did become involved. In this very last election, I jumped in with both feet.
Now, I was informed that even though, you talked about how you grew up in this political lifestyle growing up in your family, that there was two different political points of view that was in the household that you grew up in, with your mother being a Democrat and your father being a Republican. So where did that leave you as far as choices you ended up making as you got older?
Well, absolutely. That's an interesting question. My father's whole family they came over on the Mayflower. That was their history. And so they were very conservative Republicans. And of course, as I explained to you, my grandparents and my mother reflected more the ideals of the Democratic Party. So I heard both sides growing up. However, for whatever reason, my ideals tended to be more inclined to mirror that of my grandparents' side. And it just resonated with me. I don't know whether it's because I've always been a very sensitive kind of a person, and I always felt the Democratic Party was more reflective of other people's needs and that sort of thing. But I just grew up mirroring more that side.
Okay, now that side meaning your maternal side, your mother's side.
Yes,
okay,
correct.
Understand. Now, I was reading here as well that it was during the Jimmy Carter era when he was president, or running for president, that you supported views on Israel, which were not very popular amongst the Jewish community. Why is that, and what made you lean that direction?
Well, basically what it was is at the time in 1976, during the primaries, before that there was Ted Kennedy and there was Jimmy Carter, and even though I loved the Kennedys, Robert Kennedy in particular, I felt that Jimmy Carter was a new face to the Democratic Party. I felt that he was electable based on, he had very strong family and religious values, and Ted Kennedy had been involved in a lot of hoopla, if you will, and I just felt that his electability was very questionable. Even though I respected many of his political views, I felt that it was more pragmatic to support Jimmy Carter at the time. And so as far as Jimmy Carter's views of Israel, it wasn't really the reason that I voted for Jimmy Carter and worked on his campaign. It just happened to be that he had some controversial views in terms of Israel, and that just didn't seem to bother me. I felt that, I guess I've always felt that we as a nation have had too much of a sensitivity towards Israel.
Okay, interesting. Okay, and the reason why I say interesting because I had the understanding that you are a Democrat and you have supported the Democratic Party.
Yes.
However, I also believe I understood that you said that Democrats, if I'm not mistaken, interesting. You said the Democrat Party is more reflective of what the general public thinks. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the Democratic Party needs to learn how to be more expressive, though, mm-hmm. in their ideals. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that a little bit more as far as expressive? Like, how are they not doing that, especially since they have your vote?
Well, I feel that in general, the way the party works is they're not as good as coming up with the short one-liners that attracts the public. And the deal with the public is Republican, Democrat, Independents. My personal view is our nation as a whole is politically weary. They've gotten very disengaged from the whole process and very cynical as far as how the whole process works. And so what I feel, in order for the Democratic position to be heard, that it's very important for them to frame their message in short snippets that resonate with the general populace.
Okay, I follow you. I follow you. Now, being that that's your perspective and point of view, is that what you integrated when you were helping Barack Obama run for president for the second term as well? In fact, I heard you were invited to go to the White House with amongst of other leaders who helped supported him during his second election. Tell me, how did you get into that position, and what did you do that made your leadership so strong in supporting him?
Well, it was a very interesting time of my life. I decided that my personal life had changed dramatically and I really needed to get involved in something that I was very passionate about. And during the 2008 election, I was a strong supporter of the president. However, I never really got up off the couch. I would sit there in front of the television, giving him all my support that I could. Yes. However, I never did anything. And I really, really felt that I didn't want to, as much as I've criticized people in the past for not getting involved, to me, you don't have a right to complain if you don't let your voice be heard. Mm-hmm. So I felt, as passionate as I am about this man, and as much as I support his presidency, I need to get involved. So I ended up contacting OFA, Organizing for America, and I ended up becoming a spring fellow, which basically taught community organizing, how to start a grassroots coalition and grow it.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, I don't want to inundate you with too many questions because I can feel the energy coming from my co-hosts who are itching at asking you a few questions as well.
Great.
I want to start with, please, Miranda. She's one of our co-hosts that has questions that are quite appealing to all of our viewers.
Hello.
Hi, Miranda.
Okay, so my question is more in lines on what kind of strategies are the Democrats going to implement to thoroughly convey to the general populace that you're the right party to lead the Senate, the Democratic Party?
Okay, well, I can only speak as a Democrat because currently I am not active in the party itself, other than being a registered Democrat. However, in my opinion, going back to our conversation, I feel what's really important, especially in key areas in terms of keeping the Senate, which I heard you girls discussing earlier when I was waiting off set. The idea is you need to go into those communities, and it's like compare and contrast. Do you want this? Or do you want that? Is this something that's important to you? Is, the reduction in student loan rates important to you? Or is constantly giving big business tax rate reductions important to you? Which is it? It's your choice. Come out to the polls and let your voice be heard. So to me, whatever the issue is in that particular area, and that can be garnered from proper polling and that sort of thing, that needs to be focused on, and the Democratic Party needs to accurately show the contrasting opinion.
Okay.
And so that will give the voters an actual very clear choice, because as I was mentioning before, the vast majority of voters are very disengaged. And they just hear little snippets and they're not motivated to do anything. However, if you hone in to what really resonates with an individual, that's going to make the difference in actually getting somebody up off the couch and to the polls.
Oh, wow. Oh, that was really good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Bindu, what are some of the questions, or at least give me one of the questions that you thought was the most important on your list?
Okay, the most important, I kind of relate with you a little bit because I'm an immigrant, and I have 4 kids that are young kids, and I really need them to go out and vote. So my question to you is, what is the Democratic Party doing to get the young voters out there?
Well, first of all, it kind of goes back to the last question to an extent, and that is you have to find issues that specifically resonate with that population. Some of the things that perhaps might resonate with your children, depending on what ages they are, most everyone wants to grow up and be able to feel good about supporting their family and have a job they can be proud of and that sort of thing. But it's become common knowledge now that the average, I don't know the specific amount, but the average college graduates with an inordinate amount of debt. And this saddles them down, especially if they get married earlier on, have a family. This is a huge burden on their shoulders. So the Democrats topically have thrown around the idea of having training programs in specific areas that, you know, in certain, like for instance, infrastructure. It could be something in terms of bridge building and that sort of thing. Something that doesn't really require a college degree, but perhaps a technical degree that would last 6 months or 9 months or this sort of thing. And that way they could get a decent paying job and still support their family and not be inundated with debt and that sort of thing. So issues that would kind of speak to the youth. Also increasing the minimum wage, because, you know, many children actually, you know, that want to work, I'll be the first to admit sometimes kids have unrealistic expectations. They want to start out making $40K a year, and that just ain't going to happen. But I mean, as far as making it on $7 an hour or $8 an hour, that's extremely difficult. So if they can get the proper training, whether through modification of the public educational system in high school, where you can kind of start to train for career, whether it be carpentry or that sort of thing, or something to that effect. And I think that those kinds of issues, if communicated properly, would really have an impact on that particular voter.
Great answer. Great answer. Yes. Okay. Irene.
With Obama's approval rating dropping below Bush's lowest approval rating, it has become obvious that the voters are not in lockstep with the Democratic platform like they were prior to the 2012 election. Do you feel that people have lost faith in the Democratic Party, which will translate into the loss of seats for the Democrats in the 2014 midterm election?
Actually, I feel that that is a rather complicated question. However, in terms of the president's current popularity rating, that's something that Bush at his lowest rating was at 25%. And the president, thank God, has not reached, you know, those lows. What has happened is they have taken Bush's first 4-year average, and they've taken Obama's first 4-year average, and there's a 1-point difference, 48 to 49. The thing is the reason why Bush's is even that high has to do with the fact that he had a 95% approval rating after the 9/11 situation. So that has kind of skewed things. It is normal, really, for a presidency to have its ups and downs and peaks and valleys and that sort of thing. That's just par for the course. And then, of course, with all the various foreign policy challenges and everything there have been, I think that that has placed an added weight on this president and that sort of thing. As far as the midterms, I'll go back to geographically, there are some very key races. And current polling in those particular races, one of them being in Kentucky and one of them being in North Carolina, I've noticed that the Democratic challenger has been up 3 to 5%. Now, those were some seats that, have been in question. So I think, once again, one of the things that the Democratic Party needs to be very cognizant of is the money that's being poured in by special interest groups based on Citizens United. And the Democrats have got to spend their money wisely to get out their message so that they don't lose the Senate.
Okay, yes.
You know, I would like to just add a little cherry on top of all the questions that we've been bringing to the table right now. And, you know, you've mentioned, and I agree with you, that the Democrats need to find different and creative ways to get their message out there. And you even gave some suggestions on that as well. But I find it quite interesting that for some time now, the Democrats have actually been doing a great job in bringing people out to the polls and voting. But what's been coming into question as moving forward to 2016 is that that's going to slow down that momentum. And you have started an organization supporting the Democratic Party, and you did a stellar job at it. If you had some advice to offer to them moving forward so that the next presidential election, even the midterm election that's coming up, to ensure that the Democrats can keep the Senate, what would you offer as a suggestion?
Well, I think you can't discount the effectiveness of the grassroots effort. And that, to me, is essentially why Barack Obama was reelected again. And that has to do with very passionate supporters and a terrific ground game, as well as the profound use of technology. Tremendous, and focusing on the individual, getting individual donors excited, sending in $3, $5, to try to combat the big money coming from these various special interest groups. So.
Okay, and you think just by trying out this new method, because they've actually, to be honest with you, I think the Democrat has done a great job when it comes to reaching out to our youth and using different forms of social media in order to attain that vote. But you're saying that they're still lacking a little bit in that area, and if they strengthen that or tighten that area up a little bit more, that's where they'll be successful? I
think it's a matter of getting actual individuals involved. I think the social media thing is terrific, and that I think that can help attract those people. But I think you need the boots on the ground, if you will. I think you need people in the trenches, young people that are passionate about certain issues and understand that this is their country that they are inheriting, and that they need to start letting their voices be heard and need to practice activism.
I think that's well said. I thank you so much. I appreciate your time here and be quiet.
No, we cannot forget about the Republican over here.
Oh my gosh.
You have a question?
I forgot there's a Republican in the House. Okay, I stand corrected.
Yes, thank you.
Was that on purpose?
I don't know.
I was like, on purpose. Yes.
This is terrible.
Okay. My question to you is, how do you feel about the Democratic voters that are not taking much of an interest at all in the midterm election?
Well, like anything, I feel that it's important for people to get involved. If people, I have people that I worked on the campaign with that I know in some ways, there are some that are more liberal than the president, there are some that are less liberal. Everybody wants their own agenda tended to. So people can be disgruntled very easily. What people have to realize is they have to realize that it's the United States of America, and their one piece of the pie that they're interested in isn't necessarily going to be addressed, and you have to have more of a global approach to politics. And essentially, that's what I think that these people have to understand. It's also a matter of pragmatism, recognizing the fact that you may not like certain things that have been done. However, look at the vast majority. Look at the overview of what has been done. I can only speak for myself in terms of Obamacare. I myself, I am a school teacher by trade, have not been able to find full-time employment, so I've been a substitute teacher with no health insurance for 3 years. I am not one of those lazy 47%ers. I have my master's degree, I've worked tirelessly, and I have been without insurance. Well, now I have some wonderful, wonderful insurance, I am happy to announce, and have been taking full advantage of it. And these voters that perhaps have more of a laissez-faire attitude and do not want to get off the couch to get involved because they're not fired up, need to look at some of these issues and say, what is the alternative here? I think that's important.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Are we good? Okay. Well, that'll be it for today's show. Again, Nancy Gray, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. We'll be right back. Well, thanks to our guest, Nancy Gray. It gave me a lot of great ideas that I didn't even consider before, and I would love to be able to implement those as far as suggestions on what we could do moving forward for the midterm elections. But before I spew out my information, I would like to open it up to some of my ladies. You know, I totally forgot about you before, Linda, and I feel awful. But if there's anything you have to offer as a suggestion, what would you do as far as preparation for midterm election for both Republicans and the Democrats for this election?
Basically, Republicans, get out there and vote. You know you want the Senate because we need the Senate. As far as Democrats, you know, stay home. You don't need to come out and vote, you know.
Just chill.
Just hang out at home. That's all you need to do.
Okay, Irene.
I agree with Linda on this.
Oh my God.
Who are you?
Undecided.
Okay, but
Turning to the right.
You're turning to the right now?
Look at her colors.
You've been drinking the Kool-Aid. Okay, so what would you offer then as far as to Republicans and Democrats for this midterm election?
Republicans, go and vote. Democrats, go ahead, sit on the couch.
okay.
Oh my Lord.
Alrighty now.
I cannot believe I just heard that. You know what? Both the Republicans and the Democrats need to go out and vote. I mean, we, the international people, we are looking for, we want this to be one of the highest turnout. When the turnout is high, then we know that the people have truly
exactly.
spoken. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what we're
right.
looking for.
That's what I completely agree with Bendu on that, is that if you have a high turnout for Republicans and a high turnout of Democrats, then you know that the winner was the true winner for that state.
Yes,
You know
yes.
that even if it was Republican, you know that some Democrats, you know, moved over to that Republican, and then you would know that you have a stronger Senate because there would be more Democratic supporters for the Republicans. So it's in your best interest for Democrats to vote also.
Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback on that. That was very well said, Miranda. I love that. Yeah, I have to second that opinion because, to be quite honest with you, it's hard to say why the Democratic Party or the Republican Party is in any House or in the Senate at all when everyone's not coming out to vote. It's hard to come to some sort of consensus, and when you don't know why people are voting the way they are, more importantly, why they're not coming out to vote for that matter. So my best advice and suggestion, if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're an independent, go out there, rally up your party. Let them know that this midterm election is just as important as the presidential election. Let them know that moving forward for the 2016 for presidential election is going to be a big, big importance to make sure that this midterm election has the right person in the Senate. It's crucially important. Republicans, I wish you good luck. Democrats, all the best to you. Independents, get out and vote. What do you have to do to promise to make sure that people get off of the couch and get out there to vote? That is what everyone is looking for. And that makes sure that everyone's accountable. So it's not just about those who are leaders in the Republican Party or in the Democratic Party, Independent Party. You sitting there right now watching this, you are accountable for your vote. You are accountable for making sure that whoever makes it to the Senate is because of your vote. Now, as you know, a conversation like this doesn't die easily. So remember, go onto our blog, check in to see what we say, and be honest about what you have to say, because we're interested in your voice. You heard our voices. Now it's time for us to hear yours.